everyone, welcome to Learning Literature with Purba. In today's video, we are going to discuss Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Biographia Literaria, which forms an integral part of Romantic literary criticism. So in today's video, we are going to discuss the various concepts that Coleridge gave in his work Biographia Literaria, such as the difference between fancy and imagination, the difference between primary imagination and secondary imagination, poetic genius and poetic talent, and lastly, willing suspension of disbelief. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, then do subscribe to it and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. Biographia Literaria was published in 1817 in 2 volumes. The work is divided into 23 chapters. The complete name of the work is Biographia Literaria, or Biographical Sketches of My Literary Life and Opinions. So it is an autobiography as well as a work of literary criticism. Now Coleridge was obsessed with the process of literary creation throughout his life. He wanted to know what results in the formation of a good poem. So his poetic criticism revolves a lot around the theory of imagination, which he described in detail in chapter 13 and chapter 14 of Biographia Literaria. Now, Biographia Literaria was inspired from 3 sources. Number 1, William Wordsworth's theory of imagination. Number 2, German transcendentalist thinkers like Kant and Schelling. Number 3, David Hartley and the associationist psychology. First of all, we will see what Coleridge said about fancy and imagination. So earlier, the terms fancy and imagination were used interchangeably. But Coleridge said that fancy and imagination are 2 widely different faculties of the human mind. Fancy merely assembles and juxtaposes images without transforming them. For example, we often say, this person has caught my fancy, this car has caught my fancy. It means that I have clear images of the person or the car in my mind and I am unable to forget them. On the other hand, imagination is a modifying power. Imagination can transform the images into a whole new entity. Unlike fancy, imagination is creative. For example, you look at the sky and you see the shape of the clouds, and suddenly you feel that the clouds are in the shape of your favorite animal, or it is trying to give you a message. So this is imagination. In other words, fancy sees the exterior or outside, whereas imagination sees the heart and inner nature. Now Coleridge has further divided imagination into primary imagination and secondary imagination. Now primary imagination is the essential power of basic human perception. That is how we perceive and interpret the world and everything that we see around us. It helps us to identify, discriminate, synthesize, and produce order out of chaos. And primary imagination is unconscious and it is present in all human beings. So I've already given you the example of the clouds. Now secondary imagination occurs in harmony with primary imagination, but it can coexist only with conscious will. So the primary imagination is unconscious, but the secondary imagination can only operate with conscious will, and it is secondary imagination that makes artistic creation possible. Secondary imagination is a magical synthetic power. It is an active agent that dissolves, diffuses, dissipates in order to recreate. So the secondary imagination works upon the raw material of the primary imagination, but often goes beyond it. Now, the secondary imagination is more active and conscious than the primary imagination. And this magical power, this magical faculty is enjoyed exclusively by artists. It is because of secondary imagination that writers and poets can create such beautiful masterpieces. Now we will discuss the difference between poetic talent and poetic genius. Poetic talent is the skill and knowledge of writing poetry. It can be acquired and cultivated. According to Coleridge, a true poet is characterized by poetic genius, which is also called poetic imagination. Coleridge said that poetic genius or poetic imagination is superior to poetic talent. And poetic genius is governed by three factors. Number one, the power of imagination. Number two, the depth of thought and emotion. Number three, instinct for musical delight. In chapter 14 of Biographia Literaria, Coleridge introduced another concept called the willing suspension of disbelief. According to Coleridge, if the writer can infuse some human interest and a resemblance to truth in his tale of fantasy, then the readers would suspend judgment about whether the plot is reasonable or not. He also referred to this concept as poetic faith. The reader surrenders to the author's vision in order to enjoy the poem. The reader suspends his or her disbelief in ghosts and supernatural elements. According to Coleridge, willing suspension of disbelief is a very important ingredient in effective storytelling. So we know that Coleridge has written Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Christabel. Both these poems have supernatural elements. The reason we can enjoy these poems is because we have suspended our disbelief. Similarly, the reason we can enjoy Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling is because we have suspended our disbelief. Therefore, we do not ask again and again about whether the plot is reasonable or not. We surrender to the author's vision so that we can enjoy the literary work. That's it for today's video, where we discussed Biographia Literaria by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I hope you found the video helpful. If you found it helpful, then do like it and share with your friends. I'll be back very soon with a new video. Till then, stay tuned to Learning Literature with Purba. Also stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram. You can visit our online academy www.learningliteratureWithPurba.com to discover a wide range of courses on English literature and creative writing. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more videos. I'll be back soon. Thank you for watching.